Ladies and gentlemen, everything begins with why. Before you can rebuild anything, your confidence, your habits, your career, your relationships, you need to ask yourself one simple but life-altering question: why does this matter to me? Why do I need to change? Why am I choosing to rebuild myself instead of staying where I am? That question might sound small, but it's not. It's the foundation. The deeper your why, the stronger your rebuild. Because when life gets hard, and it will, you won't stay consistent for a goal you half believe in. You'll only stay consistent for a reason that cuts deep. Too many people start with what they want. I want to get fit. I want to be successful. I want to be happy. Those are results. But results don't give you the strength to keep going. What gives you strength is knowing why you want those things in the first place. When people hit rock bottom, whether it's emotionally, financially, physically, or spiritually, it's tempting to reach for surface solutions. We think if we change the outer world, our inner world will follow. But that's backward. Real change doesn't start with external goals. It starts with internal clarity. Ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to build? And why does that matter to me? Who do I want to become? And what is driving that desire? Your why isn't always something dramatic. It doesn't have to be about proving someone wrong or making headlines or becoming a millionaire. It can be quiet, it can be deeply personal. Maybe you want to rebuild yourself because you've seen what not rebuilding can do. To a parent, a friend, or even your younger self. Maybe your why is your kids' health or your need for peace. Whatever it is, own it, speak it, connect to it. Purpose gives you a reason to get up when everything else says stay down. Simon Sinek says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The same applies to yourself. To reconnect, you won't commit to rebuilding just because you think you should. You'll commit because you understand what's at stake if you don't, and you believe in the possibility of something better if you do. When you rebuild with a clear why, you stop chasing motivation. You start building direction. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people want to quit smoking. One says, I want to quit because it's bad for my health. The other says, I want to quit because I want to be alive to walk my daughter down the aisle someday. Which one do you think is more likely to stay committed when temptation hits? Purpose makes the pain worth it. Purpose makes discipline possible. Purpose turns your breakdown into your breakthrough. And here's the powerful part: your why can evolve. It's not fixed in stone. In fact, it should grow as you do. What starts as survival might turn into self-respect. What starts as proving your worth might be helping others find theirs. That's the beauty of rebuilding. You're not returning to who you were. You're becoming someone new. And every time you reconnect with your why, you reinforce the foundation of that new identity. So don't rush into action before you've done this work. Sit with yourself. Reflect, ask deeper questions. Not, what do I want to do? But why do I need to become who I'm meant to be? The moment you answer that, honestly, is the moment you stop living by default and start living by design. Because rebuilding yourself isn't about changing your life from the outside in. It's about changing your life from the inside out. And it all starts with why. We all live within patterns, some chosen, many inherited. These patterns shape how we think, what we do, and most importantly, who we believe we are. And if you want to rebuild yourself, you have to start by recognizing this truth: your life today is the result of the patterns you followed until now. But here's the good news. Patterns can be broken, beliefs can be challenged, and identities can be rewritten. The biggest obstacle to change is rarely our environment. It's not the job we hate, the relationship that's breaking us, or the circumstances that seem immovable. The biggest obstacle is internal. It's the identity we've grown used to living inside. We don't just live life. We live the story we tell ourselves about life. We act in ways that reinforce who we think we are, even when that version of ourselves is keeping us stuck. We say things like, I'm just not that kind of person. That's just how I've always been. I've never been good at that. These aren't facts. These are beliefs. And beliefs, left unquestioned, become cages. If you want to rebuild yourself, you have to be willing to break the pattern of who you think you are. Growth starts where comfort ends. And comfort often lies inside the habits of your old identity. If you're someone who's always given up when things got hard, your pattern is retreat. If you're someone who avoids conflict, your pattern is silence. If you numb your pain instead of facing it, your pattern is avoidance. These patterns aren't you. They're protective strategies you developed. And at some point, they served a purpose. But now they might be the very things preventing your transformation. Here's what most people don't realize. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you believe you are. So if you want to rebuild yourself, stop focusing only on results. Focus on identity. Ask yourself, what kind of person would do what I'm trying to do? And then act like that person now, even before you feel ready. If you want to become disciplined, start by doing one small thing consistently. Not to impress anyone, but to signal to yourself, I am the kind of person who shows up. If you want to become courageous, start having the conversations you've been avoiding. Not to be fearless, but to show yourself that fear doesn't own you. Because the moment you do something different, you send a shockwave through your old identity. You break the pattern. You challenge the narrative. This is how rebuilding happens, one conscious disruption at a time. It's not easy. In fact, it can feel like you're betraying the version of yourself you've been for years. But that's the point. You are breaking up with that version. You're not fixing the old you, you're building the new you. And that takes discomfort. That takes honesty. That takes courage. Think of your old identity like a room you've been living in for years. It's familiar. You know where everything is. Even if it's messy or broken, it feels safe. Rebuilding yourself means stepping out of that room into the unknown and designing a new space, one decision at a time. And yes, at first it feels disorienting, but slowly, as you make new choices, new habits, and new beliefs, it starts to feel like home. So when you feel resistance, when your mind tells you, this isn't me, or this is too hard, understand what's happening. That's the old pattern fighting for survival. And you don't have to listen. You are not your past. You are not your patterns. You are not even your pain. You are the architect of who you become next. Rebuilding yourself isn't about making a single dramatic change. It's about challenging the quiet daily assumptions that have kept you small. It's about saying, just because I've always done it this way doesn't mean I always have to. Every time you break a pattern, you reclaim your power. And the more you do it, the more you're realizing the limits you lived with weren't real, they were learned. So if you want to change your life, start here. Not by adding something new, but by being brave enough to let go of what no longer serves the person you're becoming. That is how you break the pattern. That is how you begin again. Pain is universal. Every one of us has experienced moments that shook us, broke us. Some of that pain is visible. The loss, the failure, the rejection, some of it is buried deep. The shame, the regret, the voices in our head that whisper, you're not enough. The question is not whether you've been hurt. The question is, what will you do with that pain? Most people either deny their pain or let it define them. They carry it like a heavy coat, wearing it long after the season has passed. They use it as a reason not to try, not to trust, not to hope again. You don't understand what I've been through, they say. And they're right. Their pain is real, but so is their power. Pain is not the end of your story unless you choose to stop writing. What if, instead of seeing pain as a curse, you started seeing it as a catalyst? What if the very thing that once hurt you become the reason you rise? This is not about pretending the pain didn't happen. It's not about minimizing it. It's about owning it fully, honestly, and with intention. Because when you own your pain, it no longer owns you. There is a difference between being wounded and being defined by your wounds. The person who hurt you doesn't get to decide who you become. The failure you endured doesn't get the final word. But for that to be true, you have to stop waiting for the pain to disappear and start using it as fuel. People often say, time heals all wounds. But that's not true. Time passes. Healing is a choice. Rebuilding is a decision, and purpose, when found in the middle of pain, can create an engine that drives you further than comfort ever could. Some of the most resilient, driven, and inspiring people you'll ever meet are not the ones who've had the easiest lives. They're the ones who made something out of their struggle. They didn't numb their pain. They didn't ignore it. They learned from it. They let it shape their mission, not their identity. Your pain can be your teacher if you're willing to listen. So ask yourself, what did your pain reveal? Maybe it showed you how strong you are. Maybe it taught you what truly matters. Maybe it uncovered wounds from the past you were finally forced to face. Whatever it was, it's part of your story now. And when you stop running from it, you can start writing a new chapter, one that doesn't begin with why me, but with watch me. But think about a time you overcame something that once felt impossible. You didn't do that by being fearless. You did it by being brave enough to walk through fear. You didn't do it by waiting for the pain to go away. You did it by finding meaning on the other side of it. Rebuilding yourself doesn't happen in spite of pain. It happens through pain. That's what most people don't understand. They wait until it doesn't hurt anymore to begin again. But the truth is, pain is part of the process, not a barrier, a signal. It tells you where the work needs to be done. It reveals what still needs to be healed. And it points to the parts of you that are calling for growth. So when the pain comes, and it will, don't numb it. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Learn from it. And then use it. Use it to connect with others who are hurting. Use it to fuel your discipline when motivation is gone. Use it to remind yourself why you never want to go back to who you were. You don't rebuild by escaping pain. You rebuild by transforming it. Every scar is proof that healing is possible. Every broken piece is proof that something once mattered. And every painful moment you've survived is a reminder you are still here, still capable, still becoming. Pain is not the enemy. It's the signal that you care. And if you care, then you have a reason. And if you have a reason, then you have a why. And that why, that reason, is the fuel you need to rebuild your life from the inside out. Big transformations don't come from big, dramatic actions. They come from small, intentional decisions made consistently over time. We often think rebuilding our lives means doing something massive, quitting our job, starting a business, moving to a new city. But in truth, change happens not in the leaps, but in the steps we take every single day. If you want to change your life, change your habits. But not just any habits. Habits that reflect the person you want to become, not the person you've been. Your habits are not just things you do. They are votes you cast for your identity. Every time you follow through on a small promise to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of change. Every time you take action aligned with your future self, you strengthen the foundation of that self. This is why willpower alone isn't enough. Motivation fades, but identity, when supported by habits, becomes powerful. You don't rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are built from your habits. So ask yourself, what would the future me do every day? If you want to be confident, what would a confident version of you do each morning? Would they speak kindly to themselves? Would they walk tall, even when they're unsure? Would they keep showing up, even on the days they feel like hiding? If you want to be strong, mentally, physically, emotionally, what daily actions would reflect that strength? Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's journaling instead of bottling up your emotions. Maybe it's saying no to something that drains you. These things don't seem big, but they are. Because they're not just tasks. They're signals to your brain, this is who I am becoming. Rebuilding yourself is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. And the reason so many people struggle to rebuild is not because they lack vision, but because they haven't built habits to support that vision. They're trying to live a new life while keeping the same routines. But your old routines won't create your new future. That's not how transformation works. You have to interrupt the autopilot. You have to design your days with intention, not default. That means no more just getting through the day. That means asking, how can I align today's actions with tomorrow's self? Let's be clear, this isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. You will have days when you fall short, when you feel unmotivated, when you question if you're making progress. That's normal. The point isn't to never fail. The point is to not quit when you do. Small, meaningful habits done consistently beat big, unsustainable changes every time. Reading 1 page a day doesn't sound like much until it turns into 10 books a year. Waking up 15 minutes earlier doesn't sound life-changing until it becomes the time you use to reflect, plan, and focus. Reaching out to one person a week doesn't seem like much until it rebuilds your entire support system. So stop underestimating small actions. Because the version of your becoming, they don't appear out of nowhere. They emerge from repetition, from showing up on the days you don't feel like it, from choosing alignment over excuses, from deciding every morning to be a builder, not a bystander. Think of it like these every day. You're laying a single brick. On its own, it may not look like much, but keep laying those bricks and eventually you'll have built a foundation strong enough to carry your future. That's how you rebuild a life. Not by waiting for motivation, not hoping for a perfect moment, but by becoming a person of daily discipline. A person whose actions are consistent with their vision, even when their emotions are not. Because that's what growth is: consistency without drama, progress without applause, transformation without spectacle. And in time, you'll look back and realize the future you once dreamed about. You're living it, not because of one big decision, because you made 1,000 small ones. Each day, each habit, each choice, building the new you. No one rebuilds alone. We like to believe transformation is a solo mission, that if we just work hard enough, focus deeply enough, we can do it all ourselves. But the truth is, you become like the people you spend the most time with. You absorb their beliefs, their standards, their energy. Whether you realize it or not, your environment is shaping you, either pushing you forward or pulling you back. If you want to change your life, you have to be intentional about who has access to it. That means choosing relationships that don't just feel familiar, but that foster growth. That means surrounding yourself with people who reflect where you're going, not just where you've been. People who challenge you to become more, not enable you to stay the same. There's a reason successful, driven, purpose-filled people often travel in accident. It's not an accident, it's a choice, because they understand something most people missing. Growth is contagious. So is complacency. Think about it. If you're around people who constantly complain, you start to normalize negativity. If you're around people who make excuses, you begin to lower your own standards. But if you're around people who push themselves, take ownership, and keep evolving, you naturally start to do the same. That's the power of proximity. It's not about surrounding yourself with perfect people. It's about being in the company of people who are working on themselves, people who are open to feedback, hungry to learn, and brave enough to be honest about their journey. These are the people who won't let you play small. They'll see your potential, especially when you don't. But here's the catch: when you start to rebuild yourself, not everyone will understand. Some will question your growth. Some will mock your ambition. Some will try to keep you where you were. Not out of malice, but because your change reminds them they're not changing. And that can be painful. It's hard to outgrow environments that once felt like home. But comfort isn't the same as alignment. Just because someone has known you a long time doesn't mean they're good for your future. Rebuilding your life will require you to make difficult choices about who gets to walk beside you. You may have to love some people from a distance. You may have to let go of relationships that are rooted in the old version of you. That doesn't mean you're better than them. It means you're choosing alignment over attachment, growth over guilt. And in that space, the space created by letting go, you open room for new people to enter. Mentors who've walked the path you're now starting. Friends who speak the language of progress. Partners who hold you accountable not just to your goals, but to your standards. These people become mirrors and anchors. They reflect your potential and keep you steady when the road gets hard. They're not just supporters. They're reminders of what's possible. When you doubt yourself, they don't just cheer you on. They remind you of your why. They remind you of who you're becoming. You don't need a crowd. You need a circle. A small group of intentional, purpose-driven people is more powerful than 100 voices who don't believe in your growth. And you don't even have to find them all at once. Sometimes it starts with one conversation, one connection, person who sees you, really sees you, and says, I believe in what you're building. If you can find that, hold on to it. And if you can be that for someone else, even better. Because as much as you need others, someone out there needs you. Your story, your lessons, your resilience, they can be a lifeline for someone else starting their own rebuild. That's the beauty of growth. It multiplies when it's shared. So take inventory of your environment. Ask yourself, who around me challenges me to be better? Who holds me accountable with love? Who expands my vision instead of shrinking it? And most importantly, ask yourself, who do I need to become to attract those kinds of people? Because the moment you surround yourself with growth-oriented people, everything shifts. Your standards rise, your mindset evolves, your rebuild accelerates, and slowly the people around you don't just support your change. They become a reflection of it. We live in a world that glorifies the breakthrough, the spotlight, the big moment. We celebrate the before and after transformations, the viral wins, the overnight successes. But real change, the kind that actually lasts, is built in the moments no one sees. Not in the highs, not in the applause, but the repetition, the quiet, and yes, in the boring. Rebuilding yourself is not a constant rush of motivation or inspiration. In fact, much of it feels like work. Not hard in the dramatic sense, but hard in its simplicity. It's waking up and choosing discipline over comfort. It's showing up when you don't feel like it. It's doing the reps. Day after day, week after week, long after the initial excitement has worn off. The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack vision. They fail because they abandon the process when it starts to feel mundane. They expect every step of the journey to feel like the first day of a new goal, full of energy and enthusiasm. But progress doesn't care how you feel. It only responds to consistency. This is where most people quit, not because it's too painful, not because they're not capable, but because it gets boring. Rebuilding your life means choosing the long game. It means leaning into the unglamorous parts, the quiet mornings, the ordinary routines, the 1,000 tiny decisions that no one claps for. Ask anyone who has truly transformed, not temporarily, but permanently, and they'll tell you the magic is in the routine. They didn't skip workouts because it was raining. They didn't stop learning because it was hard. They didn't break promises to themselves just because nobody else was watching. That's what separates those who change from those who wish they could follow through. And here's the irony: the more consistent you are, the less exciting it feels. But that's how you know it's working, because change isn't supposed to be thrilling all the time. It's supposed to be grounding. It's supposed to become a part of you. And anything that becomes part of you naturally starts to feel normal. The question you need to ask isn't, how do I stay excited? The question is, how do I stay committed when I'm not? The answer lies in your why. Not the superficial kind, but the deep, emotional reason you started this journey in the first place. The version of you that was tired of settling, the one who decided enough was enough, the one who dared to believe life could be different. You owe it to that version of you to stay the course. It won't always be exciting, but it will be worth it. The late nights studying, the early mornings training, the uncomfortable conversations, the sacrifices, they're the bricks of your new foundation. And every time you choose to continue, even when no one is watching, you're building something no one can take from your integrity. It's easy to be committed when it's convenient, but true growth happens when it's not. When your back is against the wall, when your mind wants to quit, when no one is clapping and you keep going anyway, those are the days that define you. And eventually, the results begin to show, not suddenly, but slowly, quietly, until one day you're realizing you've become someone new, not because of one big event, but because of the countless small moments when you stayed the course, when you chose to be the person you said you would be. That's the real reward. It's not about proving something to the world. It's about proving something to yourself, that you are trustworthy, that you are capable, and that you are committed to the life you are rebuilding. Progress is built in the boring, in the daily disciplines, in the repeated effort, in the doing of the work, even when it's not exciting, especially when it's not exciting. So don't chase motivation, build systems, don't wait for the feeling. Honor the commitment, and don't measure your success only by what has changed outside. Measure it by how often you stayed true inside, true to your habits, true to your values, and true to the vision of the person you're becoming. Because that's where transformation lies, not in the rush of beginning, but in the endurance of becoming.